What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be spectating random Fortnite players in Fortnite's Attack on Titan update. This week's update added the ODM gear and the Thunder Spears weapon. Let me know what you guys think of those items down in the comments below. I'm happy they're in the game. I feel like the ODM gear has made it much more convenient to get mobility. I think I prefer the katana, but I would much rather have the ODM than no mobility. And then the Thunder Spears, I don't really use them, but also I don't think they're that great anyway, so it's fine. We're going to be going Anvil Square. I feel like on this update, there's been a decent amount of players going here because this is where like the basement from Attack on Titan is. But overall, I think this update was like very, very, very good. We'll get into some more of what it changed potentially later on in the video if there's any dull moments. But I think this update was a massive W. Sounds like there's a fair amount of players here, luckily. Like I said, this place has been packed ever since the update. Had to land on the gun just to show them I could. I could have had all these guns and killed them if I wanted to. I don't know where this player is. I thought he was up there. Oh, he probably went for the Attack on Titan stuff right away. Come here, sir. Alright, there we go. We're going to be on board with Who Dat Nation. And he's got the Eren Yeager skin. I'm honestly not sure which is which, but I think this is Eren Yeager. I could be wrong. I've never seen the show. Let's spectate this player. They're going to be opening this up. And they do get the ODM gear, which is very nice to have. I think of the things you can get from those crates, the ODM gear is significantly better than the Thunder Spears. With the Attack on Titan crates, you have potential to get a Attack on Titan update. It's not the Thunder Spears every time. It's not the ODM gear every time. It's one of them. I've seen it drop both as well. I've seen this player is going to be going over towards Citadel for some reason. I'm not really sure why they're doing this. I feel like if you want to land Anvil and fight it, you know, they got the crown. They got to start playing safe. And there is a lot more freedom, I feel like, with how you want to play the game with this week's update. Not only did it add the Attack on Titan stuff, but also it nerfed the Mythic weapon. So the Mythic pump now caps at 210 damage. So it's no longer a 1 pump and 0 build. It's still very nice to have, and I love using it, but it's not as busted as it was before. And then also the pulse rifle was nerfed pretty significantly in this update. The hipfire fire rate isn't as insane as it once was, and it has more bloom on the hipfire. So I don't think you have to go vault into island every single game anymore, which I think was a nice change. Like, my least favorite things about this season probably were the repetitive nature of it, and like how slow zones were, and just like how restricted I felt landing in certain places, because if you didn't get a katana, the game felt pretty unplayable. Now with the Attack on Titan stuff in the game, there's lots of those crates spread amongst the map, so you can land in more places, I feel like, and have a playable game. And it's not like you need to be like playing entirely just to like get to the vault location and get the mythic pump. I feel like there's so much more like freedom with how you want to play the game now. Not really sure what this player is attempting to accomplish. I don't know if they're just going to rat it out or what. I'm somewhat considering just switching players. Is he going to go for the sniper NPC? Yeah, I think I'm just going to switch players. I don't really think that guy's going to run into anybody over there. This player is at Citadel. They're in a fight. Oh, no, they're not. They're hearing themselves. The NPC that looks like them. But they also have ODM gear. I might just switch from this person. Okay, this guy seems like he's creeping up on somebody right now. Doesn't have any mobility, but he's full health, has an AR, a shotgun, and an SMG. He knows there's somebody in that building. It seems like he's waiting to get opening tags on it. Not sure if the player in the building knows he's there. Doesn't seem like they do. He should get opening tags here somewhat. Oh, no. This is not going to go well, I don't think. 34 3 times. That's a solid amount of damage, but this player has been not the fastest, I will say. So I don't know if this fight is going to go their way despite getting early tags. The guy's under them, I think. He's outside now. I don't know why this player's getting ammo in the middle of this fight. I would assume he has visual audio on, though. He knows where this guy is. Like, even when they were in the building, he had the right idea of where he was. It was just like a level under. That is why I don't really think that highly of the combat shotgun, especially in solos. It can be a decent weapon in team game modes, especially if you play at a slower rate than your teammates. But in solos, I feel like it's just not a great 1v1 weapon. Like you saw, he almost just got out DPS there by a twin mag SMG. And I'm also not sure if I want to stay on board with this player either. I mean, we can maybe spectate them and see how to play a more like passive game and like where they go wrong. But I like landed at Anvil hoping to spectate somebody that was going to be a bit more aggro. This player's going for the Maven there. I think that is a significant upgrade. Personally, I prefer the Maven over the combat, especially in solos, like I was saying. In team game modes, I feel like the gap between them is a bit smaller, especially if you do play at a bit of a slower rate than your teammates. You can kind of just like appreciate that range and chip damage. But in just straight up 1v1s, I think the Maven is better. The purple twin mag as well. And so now he just doesn't have mobility and he doesn't have fast heals. But he can maybe get that if he goes brutal. It depends what he's going to do from here. I think this is like a decent landing spot. And you could like easily third party brutal. Even if you don't want to use the mythic pump after the nerf, I still like getting the slurps. So if I'm in an area near a vault location, I'll definitely want to go there. And also, nice, he can get a katana here. I don't know if he has a key, but even if they don't have a key, they could roll for the Keymaster augment, which I definitely think would be worth doing here. They don't have the most gold though, actually. But I would like to have that katana. But even if you don't want to use the mythic pump, I think it's worth going to the vault location if you're nearby. Like if you land somewhere where that's not an option, then fine. But if you land somewhere close to it, not only are you going to get that player out of the game that would have had the mythic pump, like you won't have to play against it. But also, you can get the slurps, which is nice. I'm surprised this player has that many crowns. What was that, 65 crowns? That's not like an absurd amount, but I would say that's like higher than average. But they just like didn't seem that comfortable playing the game in that initial fight versus the Attack on Titan character. Like they just didn't seem like, I don't know, like as decisive in that fight. Let's go. They use the mantle to avoid fall damage there. Sees that loot down there. There is an Attack on Titan crate on that ship, it looked like. I would definitely go for that if I was them. Maybe they just don't want mobility for whatever reason, but I very much like having mobility. They do have a crown as well. I guess we'll stick with this person. I was like contemplating switching, but like they have a decent amount of crowns. They might be decent. Maybe we just didn't get the best perspective on what they did in that initial fight. But not going for any mobility is bizarre to me. I feel like you definitely want mobility in this season. And zero build. Like zero build always, like I've talked about it so many times, but the reason why mobility is so important because in zero build, a lot of fights, if there's no mobility in the game, will just come down to who sees who first or who has better positioning. Like if there's a guy up on that tower and he has no mobility, it's like pretty hard for him to do anything about that. But if he like can maybe get some tags and then katana up to them or katana away from being out in the open here, he has more options of what he can do. Whereas like without mobility, a lot of fights are going to be decided by who sees who first or who has like better positioning to start the fight. Mobility is one of the few things that like kind of minimizes that and kind of makes the game more like skill based and not just like timing based or patience based. And that's why it's so important in zero build, because having fights decided by those two things is not great. Also, a lot of other people are going to be using mobility, and so you're not going to be able to keep up with them in a fight. You know, they're going to be able to reposition so much more than you, despite not even just like people running away, but like they're going to be able to reposition way easier. He's going to go for the supply drop. He's going to get the slurps out of it. I assume he's going to take them since he's going for it. Doesn't have that much to gain though, because the drop was purple. So he can get a purple red eye out of it, but if he gets a purple Maven or SMG, it's not like he's going to use that. Maybe he prefers the pump though, and he's going to get, if he gets a purple pump, he'll take that. We'll see. I think if you're going to be using a spray weapon, you might as well be using the pump. I don't really, like the main reason why I would want to use the Maven right now is so I can run double mobility. I feel like my favorite weapon setup since the Attack on Titan update has been to run ODM gear, kinetic blade, red eye, and Maven, and then heals. This guy's playing edge here. This is how you want to play edge though. Like that, the storm is going to force those people out of there. So he was just like looking back towards the storm to see if there's going to be anybody coming out of there. He kind of didn't have to worry about the other angle as much, because they would have had to run across snow. Okay, yeah, he does go for the pump. There's a player pushing him with the ODM gear, though. And with this ODM gear, if you shoot the person at all, it, like, breaks their ODM gear. They have potential to take fall damage if they're too high up. but also it goes on cooldown. So if you are using the ODM gear, you have to be careful when you use it, because if you're using it kind of mindlessly in a fight, you could get stranded out in the open. Like if he tags this guy right here, they would have been stranded down there. He breaks them. He breaks their shield and breaks their gear. So it's gonna be on cooldown, but that player should be able to get away by the time he gets here. But if he had hit shots sooner and they were stuck in this valley, that would have been great for him. I like how he's playing this though. One mistake I see a lot of players make is they forget about players they should know about. So the player he shot that was using the ODM gear was also getting shot by somebody in that other direction that he kept looking back at. And he kept looking back for that other person to try to make a play on him after he shot this person. He wasn't too tunnel vision on his kill. I feel like that... Oh, that was the player that had my crown. That's funny. That's something a lot of players struggle with from what I've seen, though. It's like keeping track of multiple people in a fight and kind of understanding what other people are going to do in a fight. But I think that was actually a really good play. Because when he shoots this first player here, that second player is going to hear him and then know he's shooting that guy that was running from him. And that he should be able to make a play on that. The other guy didn't go for it for whatever reason. I think they started fighting somebody else. But I think this player that we're spectating right here made a very... That was like a very smart play that you... It should be common. But a lot of people forget about things like that when they're in a fight with somebody else. This player is playing for the win very much. Like they're playing very risk averse. They're just sticking to the edge here. And if all you want to do is win, this can work. However, if you try to take this playstyle and emulate it without being comfortable fighting in game, I think it's very like limiting to your progression as a player, because every fight you get in is like an experience, and it's, you know, a chance to improve. He ended up going back for that katana, so he just didn't have a key earlier. That was why I didn't get it. I like this loadout much more than his loadout earlier. He's gonna go for the trash can. W. I told you, this player is playing very risk averse. And this can work for a lot of people. Like every fight you get in is a chance to, is like potential you lose the fight and you're not in the game anymore. But also, if you're a newer player and you're not that comfortable fighting, I don't think just avoiding conflict is really that good of a strategy to help you get wins, because you need to develop those fighting skills first. It's like, if you don't know how to fight and you're not comfortable fighting, you can luck out some wins, but odds are you're going to lose to better players in the end game. There's 8 players remaining. Another change this update did is they changed the zone timers. So in this season, when it started, they reworked zones and made it to where there was 12 zones instead of 9. And then I think there was also more time in between zones and everything of that nature. But with this week's update, they kept the zones the same, but they reduced some of the time. And they added dynamic zones. So if a lobby is really dead, there's going to be less time between zones, which I think was a really great change. I feel like we've all had those games, especially this season, where like just nothing is going on. And you know nothing is going to go on for like another zone or two. Just because of how few people there are remaining in the zone. You're just waiting for zone to force people into playing the game. So I like that they did that. Another thing about this player's playstyle of being more risk averse, I think this works better now than it did before the update. Like I was talking about before with the mythic weapons, if you didn't go for them before, you were going to have a rough time in game. Like you could beat them, but competing with a mythic pump and the pulse rifle was just such a ridiculously lethal like close range combo, and both pieces of that combo got nerfed. So I do think that, like, I still personally like getting the mythics and I like fighting on the island, but I think the person who doesn't want to do those things and just wants to play to try to like be more passive and win, that playstyle works a little better now than it did prior to those weapons being nerfed, I think. If I was this player right now, I would go for this high ground here. It's one of those things where like it might get you focused, but that's a very good spot to be. Because now he kind of runs the risk of, he gives that up to somebody else potentially. He's not contesting it at all. So if there isn't anybody in there right now, somebody else can just move in for free. And so he's probably going to have to fight against that later on in the game. And that's another thing about like the more risk-averse playstyle that I don't really necessarily agree with, or like I view the game differently. Like, yeah, I feel like if you're going to have to fight if you're going to have to fight somebody up there, you might as well fight them. You know? Whereas, sure, you might make it an extra zone or two, avoiding fighting that. But at the end of the day, like, controlling the power positions gives you, like, a distinct advantage in game, I think. Like, I would rather control the power position than fight against it. This is like a hard situation for him to play out. Ideally, he would want to hit some AR tags and then maybe get enough damage on that player to be able to push off it. But it's very unlikely he's going to be able to just straight up kill that player up there, because that player is such an advantageous position that unless he just stands there and dies, he's not going to die. Another thing that he could play for is somebody else fighting that player up there. That's like kind of the downside of having the power position, is that this spot and this spot are the best spots in zone. So the rest of the lobby is going to be fixated on that. So if another player pushes into him and then the player we're spectating could third party that, that's an easier time for him to win the game. And this is what I was talking about before. Like, that player up there can't die unless he chooses to, because he could just walk a little to the side and then he's no longer in damage. Could also make use of those bunkers potentially. Seems like he's going to wrap around. So he's going to go down here and then come out right here. And this does get him in zone for now, but it's like he has the same problem. Because being down here, he's very exposed to somebody up here. He's very exposed to this, and he's very exposed to that. And I think that's one thing that people who play more risk-averse struggle with, is like, if you want to play risk-averse, I feel like you want to play risk, like, more safe until you get to endgame. And then once there's, like, a good position in zone, you want to control it. But if you're just constantly playing to avoid conflict and constantly playing slow, then you're going to, like, give up those power positions, and then it's going to be very difficult for you to win the game. Like, I think this player is going to have a rough time winning this game, unless they get very favorable third-party timing. But you see where he is right now. Like, the rest of the lobby just has a much better angle on him than he has on them. Like, any fight he gets in, I feel like he's in a disadvantage in it. And he might make it another zone or two, but I think playing like this makes it very difficult for them to win the game. There are launch pads on these brutal buildings over here, and maybe that's what he's going to take advantage of. But even the same thing is true. If there's somebody in there, then, like, pushing into it like this, he's at a disadvantage. It seems like it's clear, though. It seems unlooted and everything, so there's probably nobody here. But that could have been very bad for them, you know? If there was just somebody chilling in this one as well, then he would have been caught between him. And there's only so much you can do there. And I think that is what I was just talking about, is the thing a lot of more passive players struggle with, is when you kind of flip that switch and stop playing to just make it deeper in the game and start playing to win the game. Because it can work. You can get in-game more consistently playing a bit more slow. But if you don't put yourself in positions to win the game, it's going to be hard to do so. I also don't know what he's doing here. It seems like he's trying to clear this mountain, which can be good. But I think at this point, you just wait for zone to force it off. Because zone's already coming, and they're going to be forced off relatively soon. But it's better to clear it than ignore it, I think. That should be a somewhat easy kill to get. But it, like, now the rest of the lobby knows he's here, you know? This is like one of those stalemate situations that I was talking about before, with like these zones being a bit faster. Oh, this is perfect for him. I feel like you want a katana to this. If you katanas to there, I think he can clean that up. But now it's like kind of too late. Maybe this island is all ice. I think there's a player under him. I think there might have just been a player behind him. Yeah. That could have been bad. Imagine this guy shoots him in the back and then somebody else comes from the top of the mountain. Like, this is very sketch. Oh, he's good here. Red eye the other one. I feel like you focus that player there. Because, like, the player, like, that he just had, like, shot at close range that was trying to get away isn't as much of an imminent threat as the other player is. This player is the imminent threat there. This is a 50-50. Okay, he wins that. Now it's a 1v1. The other player was the one who ran away earlier. This is very winnable, I think, now. But you saw that very easily could have not been. Like, I feel like the player we're on board with kind of lucky there. The other person is already in zone, but they had been tagged earlier. And they didn't seem to be the best. So, yeah, just katana to this ridge and you win this game, I think, 100%. This is good. Yeah, this should be a free kill. Like, we already know this guy is shambles, yeah. You can't break that. I think, like, he could have gone down there and finished the kill, but I think he's fine doing either way here. This is, like, the more safe thing to do. He's going to let this player heal up and get back in the game to avoid taking that close range fight. Now, this is bizarre. He's going to go take the close range fight. The guy's stuck in here. You shoot that gas can. I don't even know if that does anything for him, though. I don't know how the fire behaves with snow. He might have just helped that player out by shooting that. This is just very awkward. The player that's in there, the igloo, has a combat shotgun. So I think the player we're... This is a hard game to lose for the person we're spectating, I think. At this point. Yeah, GG's. It's over. All right, so they end up winning the game. They get their like 65th crown, I think. Yeah, but if you want to play more passive, I feel like you need to at some point play for good positioning to win the game rather than just playing to stall things out, because they almost lost the game because of that. The player who got third that game, I think, kind of choked at the end there. But that game was like very winnable for the person that got third there. But that is going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys found this helpful or informative. Remember to give it a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. And comment down below letting me know what you think of the Attack on Titan update in Fortnite. Thanks for watching.